Hi, for those who don't know, I'm 15 years old and I'm currently in Year 8 at Girton Grammar School. I first got into buses when I was about 4 years old. My grandparents used to take me into town on bus 20, or as it's now known as 120. We knew the bus driver very well, so he started to introduce me and teach me a few things, and from there, as I got older, I just started to learn a bit more and became more interested in buses. Last year I got the opportunity to make a few presentations on buses. By then my knowledge grew to such an extent, and my collection of merchandise, which you can see. So I then realised that to take it to the next level, I realised I could start looking at planning how the system's buses work and how I can change it, or what my thoughts on that is. And I looked at my previous achievement, which was a couple of years back. I went through Bombardier Transportation down in Dandenong in Melbourne, who build velocity trains, who they run for V-Line from Bendigo to Melbourne. And I was surprised when I went through there to find out that the workers don't actually get that much recognition. Many people just think they're built overseas and imported to Australia. So I decided that I'd write a letter to the Transport Minister at the time and ask if a plaque could be put on the train that just simply states "proudly built in Melbourne by Bombardier." This time last year it got put on the velocity trains, and now it's on every single one of them. And so I thought, if I could do something like that with trains, so I'll have a crack at doing something, fingers crossed, even bigger and better with buses. So I developed a public transport study, which I took to Catherine around about this time last year. Pretty much what I did is I looked at my knowledge and experience from riding buses as a student, other people my age's experiences and comments, and also comparing it to other systems such as Melbourne, Ballarat and Geelong. Ballarat and Geelong particularly because they're very similar size to Bendigo. And it wasn't until I actually compared them to Bendigo that I found out that Bendigo's system is incredibly smaller and less patronised and used compared to Ballarat and Geelong's. So in the study I really focused on changing a few routes, pretty much just making them more frequent, more passenger friendly, and trying to change Bendigo's mindset on buses, because I know a lot of people my age and a bit older that tend to look at bus travellers for the lower class or people who don't have a car, and it's really not like that anymore. Over in Europe is a good example where because it's become so congested over the years because they have not done much in the way of sustainable transport, many people have had to turn to catching buses every day. At the same time this was happening, I took part in the school's Energy Breakthrough program, and for those of you who don't know, I was in the energy efficient vehicle, which is what it is the idea behind it is to develop and run a car that can travel as far as it possibly can in 24 hours on 6 litres of E85 ethanol fuel. I've done this for the last 2 years, and we've both won last 2 years. This year we travelled over 700 kilometres in 24 hours on 5.5 litres of fuel. So not only did this give me a good insight of what future vehicles could do in terms of emissions-wise, but it also got me thinking on buses. When I looked around in Australia and stuff, although there are a few examples, such as the top one in Adelaide, not too many of them are actually running on alternative fuels. Whenever I tend to mention this to another fellow bus enthusiast or just someone who has an interest, they tend to always be under the impression that buses are diesel powered, when this can easily be changed with companies just by the additional cost and funding from governments, which would make a big difference in terms of emissions in the future. Another part of my plan, which is pretty important, is also what this picture shows here, which is in Brisbane. I chose it because it's a local example, and it demonstrates the fact that not only have they spent money in upgrading new facilities and infrastructure for buses, but when you compare this road to the roads of Bendigo, majority of it is dedicated to pedestrians and public transport buses, when you compare it to the small part next to it with very few cars. And this picture is the same pretty much. It shows that buses, if set up well, they will be used to their full potential and a return on investment for governments wise. Another big part of the plan that I thought is a free city shuttle service, looking at examples overseas, and the issue came up in a few meetings that we had of car park wise, trying to eliminate car parks in the CBD. Looking at a few of the information out there, many of the cities over in Europe that have successfully done this have used the city shuttle to really promote that fact. It could be set up similarly in Bendigo as is in other cities around Australia. Multi-storey car parks could be placed on the edge of the CBD. People could catch a frequent every 10-minute city shuttle service in at no extra charge. And not only would it provide day-to-day, easy, frequent access to the CBD, but also in busy times such as Bendigo, Madison, Easter and Christmas, where they're forced to park on the edge of the CBD and walk into the city, it'd be a lot easier for them just to have, jumping on the free bus. And from other examples I've seen in Sydney, it provides an introduction into public transport. So people who go into the CBD not planning to catch public transport might end up doing so anyway, and as a result they might think it's not so bad, so they'll give it a try next time. And so although it's a lot harder, or probably with the lack of funding and stuff these days, it'd be a lot hard to implement in Bendigo. Another few cities overseas have shown with public funding and enough support behind it that anything can be possible when it comes to transport in the future. So yeah, I suppose in conclusion, I hope my plan and my ideas on public transport can give an insight to the reference group and can contribute to Bendigo's transport in the future. Thank you.